I just go through the colours you can see on the palette, and they are from left to right: titanium white, Naples yellow, Windsor yellow, yellow ochre, cadmium yellow deep, cadmium orange, burnt sienna, burnt umber, ultramarine blue and lamp black. To thin the paints, I'll be using just an odourless paint thinner, and that you can see in the bottom right hand corner of the palette screen. And then above it I've got some walnut alkyd medium, and that's just very similar to a liquid. You can use a liquid, and that just thins the paint down, helps it flow, but doesn't thin it, make it watery as odourless paint thinners does. Here you can see I'm just starting to block in the dark area around the eyes. I'm blocking in these dark areas because when I go over the areas with an opaque fur colour later on, I don't want to actually obliterate and lose all these markings that I've worked hard to establish. So by putting them in a nice dark colour now at this early stage, and by painting around them more, I'll actually keep the markings all throughout the painting procedure. Okay, I've washed the brush off now, made a nice light colour with some ultramarine blue and white, and now I'm just going to pop in the highlights right over that top third. It's very rare that this is going to be a pure white colour. It's always the light reflected from the sky directly above the cat, so it's usually a blue. It's usually a very light blue, perhaps with a little white dot which signifies the sun in it. And you can see that I'm not going to paint a straight line either. As we know, the eye is an orb, so I'm actually going to paint it around. It's going to take the shape of the eye, and that's going to create that glossy look and appearance straight away. What I'm painting is the actual highlight that's sitting on the surface of the glass orb, if you can imagine it. And the lower section of the eye that's much lighter than the top section is where the light is shining through that highlight and hitting the iris at the bottom of the eye. So you can see already it's starting to look glassy. Now I'm just re-establishing where I can see some colours in the lower section where the light is bouncing around and actually catching a few highlights inside as well. Just with nice warm colours, some of the cadmiums again added into those base mixes. It's also quite important to know that as I'm painting this, I'm actually squinting with my eyes almost all of the time, making them slightly blurry, and what that's doing is actually eliminating the detail that I'm observing on the reference photo, so that all I'm really seeing is the basic structure, all the main shapes and all the main forms and the main highlight and shadows as well, and it's really eliminating all of those distracting details from the reference. And another way of doing that, if you find that perhaps hurts your eyes or gives you headaches or things like that, is to put your reference photo into Photoshop and then apply a Gaussian blur on there, and that will give you the same type of technique. It really stops you concentrating on the details, which you really don't want to be doing at this stage. I'm going to create a blurred background, but I still want some sort of suggestion of foliage or green rocks, mossy rocks and things like that, so I'm going to keep the brush strokes quite loose, and then the actual tight brush strokes will be on the cat's face, and it's going to offset it quite nicely, I hope. As you can see, I'm doing very random brush strokes as well. If I went all horizontal or all vertical or something like that, it would look very unnatural, and it's not always easy to do a random brush stroke. I think our minds are really geared towards symmetry and things like that. We're symmetrical creatures ourselves after all, and if you just paint on autopilot, it's very easily to not do a random stroke. So you've actually got to concentrate to make these strokes look random and not have a repetitive appearance to them. I'm still using a large brush as well. I'm going to re-establish some of these dark areas so that I can go on to a lighter mix and lay them on top. But I really want to keep using this large type brush for as long as possible to stop it looking too contrived and too rigid with the fur texture. I'm still painting the under fur really. I'm going to put the details on top of this, but a lot of this is going to actually show through at the later stages and in the finished painting as well. You can see once again how I'm continuously adjusting the angle of the brush in my hand dependent on the mark that I want to make. If I want to make a narrow mark that's pointing downwards, I'll turn the brush through 90 degrees in my hand. If I want a more horizontal brush, as I am now, I've got the brush in a horizontal fashion. And that saves me needing to change the brush, change for a round brush or a smaller flat brush or a larger brush. So I'm using the same brush almost all the time. I'll tone this area around the eyes down at a later stage with some more glazes. So the important thing I'm looking for now are nice clean brush strokes showing the very fine detail. This will be the most detailed part of the painting, so it will definitely be the center of interest then. It's quite a quick technique, very similar to drawing. I start with the area furthest away and then I bring my brush strokes closer and closer to the right hand side, overlapping very slightly each time. I'm never creating the same mark twice. Never in the exact same direction, always slightly different. That bit of shadow under the foot has really popped that up and forwards in the canvas now. In the reference photo, the cat is actually lying over a rock, a very unnatural concrete rock. And I'm thinking I'm going to probably make a mossy green rock for him to lie on. Probably with some strong lighting on there as well. I mentioned that idea I think right at the very beginning of the painting, but I think I'm definitely going to do that now. So I'll probably search on the internet and look for a reference showing moss in the kind of lighting that I want, and then I'll just go from there and make it up in my head a little bit. As long as the lighting is coming from the right hand side and it's a warm light, it should look quite natural, should look quite realistic. Just going to zoom right in now just to show you exactly how I paint whiskers. This is an area that lots of people seem to struggle with. The secret is get a nice thin paint. It mustn't be too watery, and be confident with the strokes as well. See the chisel edge quite clearly there on the brush. That's allowing me to load more paint and keep a really fine edge. And there I can go back over it again as long as you're careful. Whiskers are very opaque, so you want to make this paint as thick as you can get away with it without it not flowing from the brush. It's really, you really got to go by feel on this. If you're looking for even more great art sources, I've really got you covered. First off, I've got a Patreon channel that's been going well over a year or so, packed with around about 50 or more videos and new ones every month. Lots of the videos are many hours long, so you can see they're really, really in-depth. Subjects such as turtles, birds, elephants, big cats, you name it, is on there. So that's my Patreon channel. And also on that Patreon channel, before I go on to something else, I've got a secret Facebook group. So only the members are actually on there. It's the most supportive and friendly Facebook group that I've ever seen. I know I'm biased, but it really is. We've got 400 or 500 members on there, and they all help each other. So that's a great added bonus that comes free with it. Also, you get line art every month as well, and we've just designed a brand new companion website for it. So if you've joined other patrons and channels and you found it very difficult to navigate around, we got this free website that comes with it. All the videos are now just a single click away. Couldn't be any easier than it is. I've also got my site, jasonmorgan.co.uk, lots of tutorial videos, DVD discs and downloads on there. And if you're struggling for reference photos for your art projects, I've got some of those too. I've got 900 plus on my website, wildlifeart-online.com, and they will be copyright free for you, so you can paint and draw from them and sell your work with no copyright worries whatsoever. So hope you like those extra resources, and I'll see you all again real soon.